Roger, you require 130. Game shot on a 4 flag. Roger Shadow. 5th flag, it's Roger to throw first. Game on.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the weekly Dartscast in association with Darts Corner. I'm Alex Moss and joining me as always, my co-host. He's back safely from New York and pleased to say he's very much alive. It is the Darts statistician, Burton DeWitt. How are you doing?
I mean, after Saturday night, how can I not be great? But enough about the United States opening up its home World Cup with a win over arch rival Canada in the Cricket World Cup. England still hasn't won a match. England might not even win a match yet because they're struggling in a rain-delayed match against Scotland right now. But the U.S. is 1-0, so I am doing fantastic. But enough about that. Let's talk about another American top sports, darts. How are you, Alex?
Glad to hear it. Yeah, I'm doing all right here. Thank you. A bit of a contrast, I guess, for us at the weekend. You were living it up at the US Darts Masters in Madison Square Garden. For me, a more modest setting on Friday night, the Astley Bridge Conservative Club for a Darts League end of season presentation. Although I did get a chance to go and collect some prize money, not for me, but on behalf of someone else. But I'm going to claim it anyway and add that to my world ranking. And we'll ask you more about your weekend later, Burton. But let's start the show looking back at the action that unfolded on that stage. And we've got ourselves a Rob Cross appreciation minute in Madison Square Garden. Rob Cross, the winner in New York, beating Gerwyn Price 8-7 in Saturday night's final. And he said afterwards he feels better than ever. But the question we're going to discuss is he playing better than ever right now?
I don't think he is. And that's not that he's not playing well. I mean, obviously he's playing well. He won the US Darts Masters. He, performance-wise, played very well in the Premier League. It didn't get him through to the playoffs, but it wasn't that he was performing at a level worse than the rest of the field. But Rob Cross at his best was a world champion. Rob Cross at his best beat Michael van Gerwen in one of the best matches ever and followed it up with one of the best performances ever in beating Phil Taylor 7-2 with a 107 average or 106 average in the World Championship final. That's Rob Cross at his best. Rob Cross is not playing at that level even under a shorter match, let alone over 40 legs against the greatest player of all time. So is Rob Cross playing at his highest level? You know, for his sake, I would hope not, because if he is, then he has regressed significantly from where he was at his best. But I think he's playing as confidently as he's ever played. You know, he's already won a Euro Tour event this year. He's made a final. He's made 3 semifinals through the first 6 events, including the ones we went further. And, you know, you look back in his career, he's never made more than 4 semifinals in a given year on the Euro Tour. He'll have 7 more attempts to get that one more. And at the current rate, he's on pace for 6.5. So he's winning more matches. He's going deeper in tournaments than he has in a while. And I think he's playing at a more consistent level. But there still are frailties in his game. And he was not the best player over the weekend at the US Darts Masters. He wasn't the best player even in the final. Gerwyn Price was. Rob Cross hit at the right moments. Gezi made a couple mistakes to let Cross back in the match. After at one point it looked like Price might just pull away. And Rob Cross hit at the right times, but he wasn't the better player in that match. There were 5.5 points in the averages in favor of Gezi, and at times it was looking more like 7 or 8 points in the averages. And you go back in the earlier rounds, Rob Cross got one not out of his brilliance, but because of his opponent's struggles. For much of that match against Michael van Gerwen, they were both averaging in the 80s. MVG was averaging 81 at one point in that match, which is amazing considering the first leg, Rob Cross scored 483 points in his first 9 darts, and a few legs later he was averaging 85, but still winning that match. In the end, he had a good second half of that match. The averages did go up as both players lifted themselves, but it wasn't a high-quality affair for much of it. And similarly against Luke Humphries. Luke Humphries was averaging in the 80s for much of that match. Rob Cross hit at the right times to beat the world champion, to beat the world number 1. But it wasn't vintage Rob Cross. It was enough to get it done. And that's what's been the case this year. He's figured out how to win. He's become much better at timing his surges, at conserving his energy to get through a weekend, to get through the key stages. And, you look back, I talked about those Euro Tours. Even though he's made a lot of deep runs on the Euro Tours, he never was able to cross the line until finally near the end of last year, where he won his first Euro Tour title in his 8th Euro Tour final. But he's learned how to put together a session where he knows he's going to have to play multiple matches so he doesn't run out of steam too early. And that's what he showed over the weekend. That's what he showed recently on the Euro Tour, and has shown a few other times recently. It's why he's also, over the last year, won 3 World Series events. He's figured out how to make sure he's at his best to win a title, even if when in the past he might have been tired. In that regard, he's probably a smarter and more complete player than he's ever been. But he's been better than this. He's played better than this. He's reached higher heights. He's just not been as smart and as skilled at finding ways to win titles as he is now.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And it is a second Rob Cross Appreciation Minute in the space of just 3 weeks, so we can't really complain about that. But I'm with you. I think it wasn't Rob Cross at his absolute best at the weekend. It wasn't his A game based on what we've seen over the last 7 or 8 years and the levels that he can get to. Maybe it was his B-, maybe even C+ game, but it was very effective. And I like that phrase you used there, the more of a complete player now. I'd say he's more of a savvy player as well. That's a word we use over here. But looking at that final day on Saturday, had a bit of a shaky start against Michael van Gerwen in the quarterfinals, 2-0 down, came back and won that 6-4. And it felt like a big win for Cross, because you go back 12 months earlier, he was 6-4 up on van Gerwen in the semi-finals in New York, and in a decider, wired the ball for a 1-6-7, ended up losing the game. The semi-finals this year, it looked to be a breeze for him, 5-0 up on the world number 1, Luke Humphries, before Humphries, as we know, he's a player that he never knows when he's beaten. He came back, got it back to 5-all, but what a reaction from Rob Cross, winning the next 2 legs, 11 and 12 darters to win it 7-5. And then we come to the final against Gerwyn Price, 1-0 down. He didn't take the lead until the very end of the game, the very last knock-ins, but the ending of that final, the last 5 legs, all won in 6 visits. There wasn't those 4 or 5 visit legs, and twice in those last 5 legs, including in that decider, Rob Cross breaking Gerwyn Price's throw with a 6 visit leg. And I guess it was that determination, that will to win from Rob Cross. And it reminded me of some of the best versions that we've seen of him over the years, when he won the World Matchplay, when he produced one of the all-time comebacks to beat Daryl Gurney in the semi-finals. Because I think when you've got a Rob Cross who walks onto that stage with that attitude that he doesn't know when he's beaten, he's going to fight until the very end, and the quality that he's got, he can be a very hard player to shake off and put away. But are we saying this is the best version of Rob Cross? No, I think, like you, I think he's played better before. And you go back to that first season that he had on the tour in 2017, when he was averaging via Darts Oracle 98.87, and of course that World Championship campaign, that final against Phil Taylor as well, and beating MVG in the semi-finals as well. It's going to be very hard to eclipse those stats. So no, I wouldn't say he's playing better than ever, but as far as between the ears, the mental side of the game, he looks to be getting that swagger back, and winning is the best way to build that confidence. And that's something that Rob Cross has been doing a lot of recently. So if he can keep this run going, maybe he is going to edge closer to those levels from 2017 and maybe become I'm losing count, what would it be, a 5-hit wonder, a 6-hit wonder? It could well happen.
Including World Series, a 9 or a 10-hit wonder. It's a wonder how much longer we'll keep up with that joke, but I'm in favor of it. Now, Gerwyn Price hunt for his next single stage title, his first of the year, continues. He says he's struggling to get over the winning line. What, though, do you think is missing from his game to get him over that line?
Yeah, it's a good question. And Gerwyn Price, as he usually is, he was very honest on stage in his interview after the final. As you say, he admitted he's struggling to get over that winning line. He also said that once he gets that next win, that's going to get his confidence back, and maybe that is what's going to spark him on another winning spree like we've seen him do before. And for most of Saturday, that final session of the weekend, he looked to be on track to get back in that winner's circle. He thrashed Peter Wright 6-1 in the quarterfinals, 104 average. Then against Luke Littler, 6-3 up, got pegged back to 6-all, survived that match start in the decider, and then pulled out that 108 finish, that clutch finish at the right time. And something that I think Brendan Dolan was talking about with us on the show a few weeks ago during his run to the world title, Gerwyn Price that is, but he had that spell that got him to world number one, where he's finishing those key finishes at the right times. He was the best at them, and it got him through that semi-final with Luke Littler, and then the final with Rob Cross. It was a strange one because he went 2-0 up, he went 4-2 up, missed darts for 5-2, then pulls out the 1-6-4 finish, the 12-dart leg against Fro to get that break straight back. But the very next leg, he'd describe it as bombed opportunities again, because he had 2 darts for a 6-3 lead, and okay, one of those darts was at the ball, but his next visit on 25 misses the big number, hits a 20 instead of a 1, and only ends up getting one more dart at a double. And in a decider, he had the throw, 80 left, again misses the big number, chasing that treble 20, hits a single 1 and doesn't get the treble with his next dart. He can only leave a double, doesn't get the match dart. And Gerwyn Price at the peak of his powers or in full flow, he wouldn't be making those mistakes. He'd get those 2 darts at a double from 25, and on that 80 he would get at least 1 dart at a double, maybe even 2 at a double 10 to kill the game off. So what is missing from Gerwyn Price's game right now to get him over that line? A bit of belief, perhaps. You'd think Gerwyn Price would win that final from that position that he was in 8 or 9 times out of 10, had he not been in this run that he's in at the moment, where he's gone a long time without a singles title on the stage. And I think in that final you had one player in Rob Cross behind the whole game, but never once did he think about losing and not lifting that trophy at the end. And then the other player in Gerwyn Price, who led for almost the entirety of the game, maybe he was hoping he would win rather than having that confidence behind him from before, that this is my title, it doesn't matter who I'm playing, they're not going to stop me today. So even without a title on stage for a while, Gerwyn Price, he is still performing at a high level. There's not many players that are consistently posting those 95 plus averages as regularly as he is. I think it is, in football terms, the final touch, that final ball, that's what's missing, because on throw, 6 visits in a decider, he should be putting those opportunities away. And I think it's tough to say, but Gerwyn Price, he's got to be patient. He's got to keep doing what he's doing, keep the faith, as I would say, and those results are going to come. But he can't start to feel sorry for himself, because at this elite level, no one's going to feel sorry for you. He's got to keep fighting, and that next win is going to come sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what is off with his game, and it's not that he's struggling to get over the winning line in matches per se. It's that he's struggling to get over the winning line in tournaments. So far this year, there's been 31 matches he's played that were decided by 1 or 2 legs in either direction. He's won 20 of those 31. He's won most of the close matches, nearly 2/3 of the close matches he's played this year. Look at the performance in the semifinal against Luke Littler as a perfect example. Okay, that match actually possibly could have won that by 3, and it wouldn't even be in the score in that statistic. But he figured out a way, even after missing his chance, seeing Littler come back, miss a dart himself for the match. Gerwyn Price came back and had one of his best checkouts I've seen from him ever when he took out the 108 to win the match. And what made it so amazing wasn't per se that he checked it out, but it was that he did it really in 2 darts. The first dart at treble 17 was terrible. He was an inch high, and partially the way his darts hang, partially obscuring the treble. If you had asked me to, if you had offered me 20-1 odds on him taking out the 91 in his final 2 darts, I wouldn't have taken it. I did not think he had the way through after how bad that first dart was, especially after blowing the lead and seeing his opponent just miss the double, and being as well that he had not shown his ability to win a title yet this year, where everything was with Gerwyn Price. I would not have taken 10-1 odds on him taking out that from there 91 and 2, but he did, and he did it phenomenally. 2 perfect darts, and he came back in the final and played very well as well before fading up just a little bit at the end and paying the price for it. But the problem has been what is shown by that final. It's crossing the line in tournaments. He's had 11 losses this year in either finals or semifinals, including Premier League semifinals, which obviously don't count as titles, but they feel like mini titles in themselves. And in those 11 matches, in 7 of them, he's averaged under 95 in going out. semifinals and finals that he's lost. And another 3 of the 4, he's averaged under 98, which, granted, 98 is a good average, but it's still below his Premier League average for this year, 98.41. And it's below his Players' Championship average for this year, 99.86. Only 1 of those 11 losses in semifinals or finals has been above the 98. That was the match against Martin Schindler, where he averaged nearly 101 in losing a Euro Tour final. For the most part, Gerwyn Price's performances have dropped below his seasonal performance level, and sometimes significantly below his seasonal performance level in semifinals and finals. That's why he's not been crossing the line. He's not been playing at his world-class best when titles are on the line. He's still playing all right. It's not like he's dropping off and averaging 84. He's averaging 92, 94, things like that. But that puts you vulnerable. Averaging 94 every match can win every match. I've talked about that. That's what Chris Dobie did to win the Masters last year. That's what Joe Cullen has done and other players have done when they've won their titles. But it can also lose a match. If you're averaging 99.86 across a season, over 98 across a season in the Premier League, and you're doing that every single match, you're going to lose even more infrequently. The problem is Gerwyn Price is, when the push comes to shove and the title's on the line, he's not averaging that 98.41. He's not averaging that 99.86. He's averaging that 92, that 94. And that puts him vulnerable to be beaten. That's where it's going wrong. He's just dropping off that little but noticeable bit when titles are on the line in the semifinals and finals. Once he gets to playing like he's playing in the rest of his matches in those semifinals and finals, the titles will come, and they might start really flowing, because if he can do that, there'll be no question that it's Gerwyn Price who's that next person after the Lukes for world number 3 on current form, and maybe he can even get himself up to their level, because that's really the only thing missing from his game right now.
And now we'll move on to our first guest on this week's show. He's back in the World Series this weekend. He is the reigning Masters champion. Here's our chat with Stephen Bunting. I'm pleased to say we're joined by the Masters champion, Stephen Bunting. Thanks for the time again, Stephen. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Glad to hear it. And we're talking on this Sunday afternoon. You've just got back to the UK. You were in Germany for a darts gala yesterday. How was it?
Yeah, no, the darts galas are fantastic, to be honest. They're just like a European tour event. 2,000-3,000 people every time we go in. Obviously spending time with the likes of Johnny Clayton and Barney and Gabriel Clemens and people like that. It's good to rub shoulders with the best.
And that's what you're going to be doing for the next 2 weekends as well. You're back on the road, a late call-up for the next 2 World Series events in Denmark and Poland. How excited are you to be a part of that World Series again?
Yeah, no, very, very excited. Obviously, it's been, I think, 10 years since I last played a World Series event, and to be in Copenhagen and to be in Poland as well, I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously, places I've been before, but never for a World Series. So yeah, it should be fun, and I'm optimistic that I can do well as well.
You mentioned that last time playing on the World Series 2014 in Sydney, where you got to the final, played Phil Taylor. What do you remember about that last time on the World Series?
It was all a bit of a blur, to be honest, because obviously I come over from the BDO as world champion, and that was the first real major I played in. Obviously, going out to Australia was a massive thing for me, and I really enjoyed my time out there. I was out there for quite a few weeks. Obviously Perth, Sydney, Auckland, and then I got an exhibition in Hong Kong on the way back. So I was away from my family for a month, but it was a brilliant time, and obviously it was fantastic to be in front of all them crowds and show them what we can do the other side of the world.
Well, let's circle back a little bit. We last had you on the show just before the Grand Slam last year, and it was a great week in Wolverhampton for you, making the semi-finals. You came through the groups in a winner-takes-all game against Peter Wright, a game you said took big cojones to win. So how much extra pressure is there in those situations when it is such a short race to 5 legs, but there's a lot of reward on offer for the winner?
Yeah, obviously the shorter format, there's a lot more pressure. You've not got as much wriggle room in them sort of games, and obviously when you're playing against the best players in the world, you know that one mistake can cost you a game, and especially in a short format like that, you can't make the mistakes. So to come out on top on a game like that, and I think my record in last leg shootouts is pretty good over the last year or two. I feel confident whether I'm 4-0 down or 4-4 or whatever the score may be, that I can always get over the line. So I think over the last year, I think definitely I've honed in on that sort of skill on my side, and obviously you still need that bit of luck to get over the line in a 4-all game or a 5-all game, whatever it may be. But I'm just happy that I've done it a lot more than I've not done it.
Well, you didn't need deciders in the knockout rounds in the Grand Slam. You beat Danny Noppert, Stowe Bunce to make the semi-finals, and the Grand Slam, we know the semis and the final are played on that final day. The result against Rob Cross didn't go your way, but what was it like being involved in that final day of one of these major events again?
Yeah, no, it was unbelievable, to be honest. It was, like I said, it's all been a bit of a blur the last few months, and just how well I'm playing. I try and focus on every single game, but the game against Rob I was quite a way behind, and I started fighting my way back, and I felt Rob getting a bit nervous and tightening up, and obviously if I could have snatched that leg and took it to the distance, I think I would have had a really good chance of winning that. But listen, Rob's a fantastic player, and he's so hard to beat, like many of the top pros are, but obviously you always keep trying, and even when I was behind, I still felt like I could win the game. Just sometimes, I missed a few doubles and obviously lost the game, but I was so happy to get through to the semis.
And that week in Wolverhampton, we also saw you add a few more songs to your debut album of covers. You sang a few lines with the Elvis Presley impersonator for the title sponsor, Mr. Vegas. I'm guessing you didn't take much persuading for that video?
I like the lads at Mr. Vegas. They're really nice, and obviously it was a bit of fun. They had the Elvis impersonator there, and obviously it's well documented that I like a little bit of a sing-song, and obviously why not, eh? I know there's a few other players who didn't do a sing-song, but my personality and stuff is to do stuff like that, and it shows a different side of me, it shows my character and stuff, and I just enjoyed it, to be honest, and who doesn't love a bit of Elvis?
Yeah, we loved watching it as well, and we saw at the back end of last year your form really pick up, especially on the big stage, and your popularity grow as well through your TikTok channel. Have you been recognised in public yet just off your TikTok, or is it still the darts that people know you from?
I think people recognise me more now for TikTok than they do for the darts, to be honest. It's crazy. I can't do an interview anymore without people mentioning the TikToks, and when I'm out and about, everyone mentions, they love me TikTok and that. So, like I said, it's all about personality, showing people what I'm all about, and they don't just see the boring darts player on stage; they see a different side of me, and that's the when you're on the stage, that's the side that you obviously focused and stuff, whereas the TikTok side's the fun side where I can show a bit of my personality and everyone can have a laugh at.
Yeah, it's good to see. And after the Grand Slam, you still had 2 more tournaments before the end of the season. The Players' Championship finals, you make the quarterfinals. The Worlds, you got to the last 16, both times being stopped by Michael van Gerwen. Leaving Ali Pali, how did you reflect on the 2023 that you'd had?
Yeah, I felt like I had a good 2023, to be honest. The Players' Championships, I was a few legs ahead of Michael, and Michael pulled off 4 unbelievable legs to beat me in that, and I think that gave me a bit of confidence. Even though I lost the game, I sort of embedded in my brain that I can compete with these top players, and obviously in the Wales I was so disappointed with my Wales performance against Michael because I just did not perform for whatever reason. I felt absolutely fantastic in the practice room. All my preparation and everything was spot on, and I just got up on stage, and sometimes the stage can be a lonely place when things don't go well, and for one reason or another it just didn't go in that game, and obviously to come away from the Wales last 16 and be disappointed, it shows how far I've come along, and just the whole year as a whole, and just the way I played, my consistency throughout the year and my averages and stuff. It was a massive building stone to what was to come in the next year.
Yeah, it certainly was. And I remember you said to us last time that you had a holiday booked in January as well. Was it a complete break from darts whilst you were away, and did you feel refreshed coming into this season?
Yeah, no, it was fantastic to get away, to be honest. We went to Cape Verde and just the weather was stunning. I didn't think about darts or I didn't pick a dart up. It was just a complete relaxation holiday with my family and just got away from darts, to be honest. And sometimes you just need that battery recharge, that refresh, that put the darts down and just get yourself ready for the start of the season. But obviously you're having that break as well, which was brilliant and much needed.
Yeah, you're coming in refreshed, and a week before the Masters, our listeners voted you as the winner of 2 of our awards, the Walk-On Song, Player Social Media of the Year. We don't want to take all the credit, but a week later you are lifting your first major title in the PDC. That's not a coincidence, is it?
Definitely. Like I said, to be getting awards like that as well, the Walk-On's such an important part of darts now, not just in my game, but you see it in many a player's game now, and it's the interaction with the crowd, it's that gets them on your side as well, and that's a massive factor in everything that I'm doing. Obviously the fans are a massive part, and they pull you through so many games, and that was a huge part for me. And obviously the Masters, my maiden title, just the way I did it as well, beating the players I did, and the feeling and the emotions that I went through in the final, and then to share them moments with my family at the end of it was moments that I'll never ever forget, and that sort of gives me the energy and everything to be able to do that again. And I want to replicate them sort of games in the future and pick up more titles.
Yeah, what a run it was in Milton Keynes, and it started off on that Friday night against your US road trip buddy Ross Smith, 5-2 down, you reel off 4 legs to win it in a decider. Saturday night you're against Luke Humphries, who's just become the world number 1, the world champion. 4 ton plus finishes, helps you get the better of him. Are you starting to really believe it could be a time after those wins?
Yeah, no, of course, especially when playing Ross as well, and it's such a hard game playing one of your close friends, and he missed a match start as well. So I think I always say that you need that bit of luck if you're going to win any title, and fortunately for me, I had that bit of luck with him missing that dart at double 15, I think it was. But to then beat the world number 1 and current world champion in Luke, who in my opinion was the best player in the world at that time, was such a confidence builder for me. And like I said, some of the games against the Van Gerwens and the Humphreys, when you're winning games like that, the belief's there that you can keep doing it.
And the finals day on Sunday, you brush aside Peter Wright and Nathan Aspinall for the loss of just 3 legs, and then it's Michael Van Gerwen in the final boss, if you like. How are you feeling going into that game?
Yeah, obviously going into that game after having 2 big wins, the confidence was absolutely flowing. My fiancée Keela come into the back room and she said, "I've never seen you so relaxed before a game." And I was just sat there feeling really chilled. I felt like I said, the preparation, which is a massive part of my game, was all done. And I felt like I couldn't wait to get up on that stage and show the world what I can do. And obviously, just the whole tournament for me was an absolute epic one. Just everything went right for me, and the ton plus finishes, which has become a big part of my game now, was there for everyone to see, and they were the reasons that obviously I went on to win that title.
Yeah, and it was a brilliant performance in the final against Michael Van Gerwen, 11-7 to win that first major in the PDC. And you mentioned about the scenes afterwards with your family on stage. Can you put into words what those moments were like?
Emotional. Obviously, they go through all the emotions. People don't see it, but obviously every loss, they feel it exactly the same as me, because we're a team. Not just my family, but my management. My fans feel down as well, and sometimes, like I said, darts can be a lonely place, but having your family behind you and your management, I'm in a really good place at the minute, and they're always supporting me. They've always got me back, even when things don't go right. They're always there to say the right things to me and keep me chin up, so to say. And they're a massive part, and obviously you can see the emotions after the final. Obviously the hugging and the tears of joy. And yeah, like I said, I'll never forget their memories.
Yeah, it's a great moment, and we saw after the final as well the trophy in bed with you, and then on the drive home using the seatbelt to keep it safe. So where is the trophy now? Does it have pride of place in the Bunting home?
Yeah, so I got a replica trophy, but it's on my media wall. So I've got it there with pictures, and I've got my Matthews darts right next to it that I use for that title. So yeah, it's in a special place. And obviously, I take inspiration every time I look at that trophy, just because of how special it was and just the route to the final, the way I played. Yeah, and like I said, memories that I'll never ever forget.
Well, just looking ahead then, we saw you at the Premier League night in Liverpool. You've had a taste of the Premier League before. You're back in the World Series now, as we've mentioned. But how much of an ambition is that for you now to get back into that Premier League?
Yeah, no, obviously I've watched it all this last few months, and I went to Liverpool to soak in the atmosphere. I actually got up on stage and done a little interview with Sky and stuff, and yeah, it's very important for me to try and get back into that. Obviously, it's been a long time since I've not been in it, but I believe I'm playing well enough again that yeah, I could possibly be mentioned the last few years, and I'd love to be back in it. It's such a special tournament, and it's the biggest for me part, probably the Matchplay in the world. And yeah, like I said, I'd love to be part of it, but I've still got a lot of work to do between now and then to make sure that I'm in that.
Well, you mentioned the match play. That's going to be the next major on the calendar for you in July. I think it's going to be your 10th appearance. You're currently set to be a seed again for the first time in a little while. If you do stay in those seeds, are you expecting Gary Anderson or Luke Littler to be pulled out the hat next to your name?
I always seem to get a really hard draw at the match play, to be honest. But I think, like I said, me head and me game and me mentality and everything that is positive about my game at the minute is in a really good place. So I'm not too worried about who I play. It's all about what I do, not what they do, and it's about being positive and putting the hours in and on the practice board, making sure I'm ready for the match play, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'll treat it like every other tournament. Obviously, it's one of the biggest, but obviously, if I put the right preparation in and I'm feeling good and I'm playing well, then yeah, I'm going to be in the hat to win it.
Definitely, and we've got a couple of questions from our listeners before we let you go. The first one from Phil is about your nickname. He wants to know why the bullet.
Yeah, so my darts are bullet shaped, so that was one reason, and because I'm quite fast as well, and people said I'm deadly, so that's where the bullet come from. As fast, deadly, and bullet shaped darts.
Very nice. And the last one we've got here comes from John Chili Reyes, outside of darts. He says, what do you think of the new Liverpool manager and what he will bring to your football team?
Yeah, obviously it was really sad to see Jurgen Klopp leave the club. I think just the emotions that everyone went through him as well, and I was crying my eyes out. It was such an emotional, it's like losing a family member. Obviously he's such an important part of our club, and just the history and what he's done for our team and the city. But Arne Slot he plays a similar style of football, which I think is very important. And obviously having a Dutch captain in our team, maybe he can tie these players down to longer contracts. Trent's situation, hopefully Trent sees that as well. And I've spoke to Michael van Gerwen and a few other players about Arne Slot, because I don't watch the division, and they all speak positively about him. So yeah, I'm very optimistic, and like I said, we've got a really good squad, but we just need to keep hold of these key players and push on next year. We're back in Europeans, so yeah, it's all about Champions League. We always seem to do well in that, so it's nice to be back in the top echelon of world football, and we'll just see where we go. But obviously Arne Slot will be judged on results, so let the season start and let's see how he does.
Yeah, we shall see. Well, Stephen, it's always great to get you on the show. Belated congratulations on winning the Masters, and we wish you all the best for these next two World Series events and what else is to come in 2024 as well.
No problem at all. You're welcome.
Thanks again to Stephen for joining us now. Continuing our look back at the weekend, and a question more for you here, Burton, because you were at the US Darts Masters for both the days in New York. So give us your thoughts on the event as a fan in the crowd. What was the experience like?
Oh, it was really phenomenal. I think I've used that word already this show, so apologize for running low on adjectives. But I was impressed. I didn't know what to expect from a predominantly U.S. crowd. And I think that's the first key thing to point out, that it was a predominantly U.S. crowd. There were a significant number of English men and English women who had flown over. And I met and talked to some of them over the course of the weekend. And obviously, that's a great experience for them, to, an excuse to go to New York for a weekend. For some, it might have been the first time they'd ever made it, and to throw the darts on as well. Or as the impetus for them to go somewhere they wanted to go, was obviously a great opportunity. But the event wasn't for them. And the crowd showed that, because it was predominantly an American and Canadian crowd. I'm going to say at least 80% of the people there were Americans or Canadians. And that was not the case back in the day when you had the Las Vegas Desert Classic in Las Vegas. And I've also heard it wasn't really the case for the first couple of years when the World Series event was in Las Vegas. But it is now becoming the case, and that means the event is accomplishing what it intends to accomplish, which is to grow the sport and to grow the fan base. And there were people who had been there before and went last year and the year before, but there were so many people that when John McDonald asked them the first day, is this their first time going to the darts, cheered. It was probably at least 70% as loud as when he asked who is a return visitor. And that tells you something. That tells you what the Luke Humphreys effect has done. The crowd was singing a lot of things that you'll hear at Alexandra Palace, but they were also doing some I hadn't heard before, like for Luke Littler, Luke, there it is. I don't think I've heard that chant before. So you know what? Americans have come up with their own dart chant for Luke Littler. You guys can steal it if you want. But overall, it was great to see. The only problem was the quality of the darts left a lot to be desired until the final session. The first night, almost everyone was averaging in the 80s, Luke Littler being one of the few exceptions. Stowe Bunce also had put in a decent performance, although not enough to win in his match, both of them averaging in the mid-90s and hit in that match. But most of the performances on the first night were B and C games for both the North American players and obviously the PDC stars. And the North American Darts Championship didn't bring the best out of the players. It did bring the best out of Matt Campbell, and I think that needs to be noted. It was a fantastic 3 games from the Canadian number one, the North American number one, I should say, because he's the only one in the top 64, and well needed from him, because this year he's been averaging in the mid to high 80s so far this year, winning only 2 matches in Players Championship events, not qualifying through on the Euro Tour. A significant regression to date in the PDC, but he had not played at the level that he played at to win the North American Darts Championship. If he can play at that level going forward, hopefully for his sake, he hasn't left himself too much to do to qualify for Ali Pali. As a top 64 player, he was ineligible to win a spot at the Alexandra Palace by winning the North American Darts Championship. So he still has work to do to get to the World Championships and to save his tour card. But if he plays at the level he did in the North American Darts Championship, he'll give himself that chance. And that was great to see. But the big takeaway from the weekend was the crowd, and then the players, the PDC professionals on Saturday night, raising their games and giving the crowd what it wanted to see. If not a 9-darter, at least everything else, including a big fish. That was phenomenal. And that is what I'm going to take away from the weekend.
Good times. And the PDC, we should mention as well, they've thrown out a few stats from the weekend. 3,600 in attendance on that Saturday night, a record crowd for darts in North America. You were part of that crowd there, Burton, and across the weekend, 7,500 across the 3 sessions, the Friday night, Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening. And we've got our own weekly Dartscast group chat, me, you and our producer Hannah. You were keeping us updated during the weekend with what was going on. And one thing I've got to touch on, because I was buzzing to hear about it, is that you overheard someone say enjoy the darts.
Yeah, but I think that was the Saturday afternoon session. I was not involved in the conversation. I don't know what they had been talking about, but a guy was walking away said, enjoy the darts to the person he had been talking about. I didn't hear anyone say hang tight. I did see it on a couple signs. Granted, I made those two signs. But I guess that means I have more work to do, especially since hang tight you will hear around the U.S. and you will see it in places, but you won't normally see enjoy the darts unless that is what you've gone to do.
And one more I've got to bring up as well, actually, because we did have him on the show quite recently, the boss of the CDC, Peter Satira. You got to meet him as well, so he's ticked off both the weekly Dartscast co-hosts. He's met both of us now.
Yeah, a fantastic person. I'm glad I finally got to meet him in person. Obviously, I've texted with him before, and hopefully we'll see him again when there's an event in the D.C. area the first weekend in September. I've been out of town the last 2 years for it. I was my big trip to India 2 years ago, and then had a bachelor party to attend, not mine, but for a friend in San Diego on the exact opposite end of the country, almost as far as going to England. So I missed that last year, but I don't think I have an excuse this year. So now we'll go on, though, to our question of the week, sponsored by Condor Darts. Where would you like to see the next location for a PDC World Series of Darts event? I'd like to see one in Denmark. Oh, wait, that is going to be the next one. But at least of places there haven't been. Japan, Canada, Saudi Arabia, somewhere else?
I think the correct answer is it's not called the Reebok anymore, but Bolton Wanderers Stadium would be quite good for me on my doorstep. But the options we've put in our poll on Twitter is open for the rest of the week, so do go and have your say. But Japan, 56%. Canada 19%, Saudi Arabia 9%, and 16% other, and lots of our listeners getting in touch. So thanks everyone for sending in your thoughts. I'll read a few of them out. Wim saying, going for Japan because we need the World Series back in Asia outside of Bahrain, but would love to see a doubleheader in North America. CanCon Sports, it has to be Canada, right? Huge depth of talent, and it could be staged like the Australian New Zealand tournaments, play in Toronto or Montreal, minimum travel, and I'm sure a decent crowd. Callum Brew saying Japan has hosted a World Series event in the past. Unless Saudi Arabia has any form of darting talent, no way, not interested in the money. What about South Africa and Costa Rica? And the last one from FEBS Data saying I voted Saudi for the lols. Well, let's just start off with darts in Saudi Arabia, because it's not my answer for this question, by the way, but it's an idea, a concept that has grown a lot of traction in the last week or so. Barry Hearn, the former PDC chairman, he's been speaking to the press, and in his words, I've spoken to the Saudis and they were very keen, closely followed by, but of course there's no alcohol in Saudi. So we've seen the boxing that's held in Saudi Arabia, one of our other sports that we like to follow on this show, and there's been some big fights over there recently as well. But there has been talks of not just darts being held there, but the World Championship moving from Ali Pali to Saudi Arabia, and darts not the only sport to have supposedly had a lot of interest from that part of the world. The snooker as well, which is part of the Matchroom stable, there's been a debate about their World Championship moving from the UK to there. So take out where you would like to see the next location for a World Series event, and if we phrase it slightly differently, to where will the next location for a World Series event be? And Saudi Arabia, you'd probably get a lot more votes, and if they are serious about joining the party, hosting a darts event, then a World Series event would be the ideal way to start that relationship, you'd think. So yeah, I can see a Saudi Arabia Darts Masters coming onto the calendar, but if I had to choose myself, it's a close one for me between Japan and Canada from those options we've put on the poll. I think a Canada event, it would make a lot of sense, like our listeners have said. You could double up like you do with the Australian New Zealand events. You could have it over 2 weekends, the one event in New York, then the following weekend you have one in Canada. And for me, I like the idea of that World Series event coming back to Japan as well, and that's where I'm going to put my vote, I think, because I enjoyed that first running of it. I think it was 2015. I think it ran for 2 years and then stopped. We had one in China for a few years as well, but I think back to that first one in Japan, and the crowd really got behind the darts and behind the players. I remember there was a lot of Peter Wright wigs in the crowd, and okay, slightly biased, but that 1-4-1 finish that he had to beat MVG in the semi-finals, one of the best finishes I've ever seen. So that was a special moment. So yeah, we'd like to have some more scenes like that. And of course, the Asian tour back up and running fully now, and I think it's a growing hotbed for steel tip darts again. So let's reward them with a World Series event in Japan and start to really build the game over there again.
Yeah, I also voted Japan, but I also would have strongly considered Canada. I think, having it like it is in Australia and New Zealand, to have, those two events, and the players give them more time to travel and to go see some stuff and to do more things to help grow the game, I think would be a worthy thing to be able to do in both the U.S. and Canada. Because, of course, the player could fly back, but you're probably going to spend the entire week in between there, and that gives that opportunity to go do more events to try to grow the game, to to stage more things, meet and greets with fans, meet and greets with kids, going to schools to try to grow the sport, which if they only have 1 or 2 days that they're here beforehand to do, makes that a little bit difficult. So I think there's something to be said about trying to string a U.S. and Canada tournament in consecutive weeks. Or, if you want to use less time, you could do it on a holiday weekend. You could have done the Sunday and Monday in the U.S. for what was our Memorial Day weekend, and then suddenly do Friday and Saturday up in Canada or something like that. And that way, you get through both of them in about 7-8 days, but it gives you that little bit extra time to do a little bit more. And I think that would make sense. But I think there needs to be an event back in East Asia, and Japan makes the most sense of those locations. But you could do, as well, Japan and the Philippines. And there's enough players in both countries to fill out separate events. And obviously the Philippines has always been a hotbed for soft tip darts, but we've seen with the growth of the Asian tour, just the depth. And this year's breakthrough with Alexis Toilo, player that almost no one had heard of before this year, and he's making 2/3 of the finals. And it's not that he's the first ever Filipino player. There's been plenty of top Filipino players from the Asian tour before. And this just shows there are plenty more that we don't even know exist that are just waiting their time. So, to have at one point a U.S.-Canada doubleheader, and then to have an East Asia or Southeast Asia doubleheader of Japan and maybe the Philippines, I think would be a good way to next grow it, and it'll allow those players to stay out there, especially if there's like an Asian tour event going on as well, that the top players can play alongside to showcase the sport and showcase those events, like the North American Darts Championship helped showcase North American Darts side alongside the World Series event. That might be the next step. So I'm going to go both. Bring in Canada, but also bring in Japan and Philippines. Let's grow the World Series, and let's grow it significantly.
Sounds good to me. Well, we're going to dip into the mailbag before we go, but let's bring in our final guest on this week's show. Before we do that, he is going to be in the Nordic Darts Masters this weekend. Here's our chat with Madars Razma. I'm pleased to say we're joined by the 9-time Latvian national champion and Latvia's #1, Madars Razma. Thanks for the time, Madars. How are you doing?
Hi to everyone. Thanks. Feels so good. Busy now. Still building my family house. Still need to practice that. It's not easy in summertime, but I have to do it because a lot of important tournaments just around the corner. Denmark, then the next Pro Tour event, European qualifiers. I have to be ready, and
Yeah, we're talking just a few days before one of those events that you mentioned, the Nordic Darts Masters. It's the annual stop in Scandinavia on the World Series. How much are you looking forward to playing on that World Series stage again this weekend?
I would like to reach round 2 at least. It's the time when I just want to enjoy the tournament and stage games. It's history. I'm looking forward to win games. I want to play. I feel confidence in myself. I know I can play well. I can play quality games. I can beat great players. And looking forward for the weekend, for the tournament.
Well, this is the 4th year that we've had the Nordic Darts Masters on the calendar. You've played in all of them, flying the flag as Latvia's number 1. What's the interest been like ahead of this year's event? Has it grown off the back of Luke Littler drawing more eyes on darts?
Yes, but actually I don't think about it a lot. How many years I played and what's going in Latvia darts now.
Well, let's circle back then to that first Nordic Darts Masters back in 2021. We last had you on the show just before that event was about to take place, and it was a memorable first night for you, beating Nathan Aspinall in the first round. What was that experience like, winning on your debut?
Oh, it was, this game I remember. Yeah, it was an amazing game. It was an amazing atmosphere. Really great to remember this tournament, this game, and the next round I lost against MVG, I think. But yeah, it was great, and some guys from the PDC just make special video for me. Yeah, great, amazing.
A month after that, we saw another impressive feat from you, that 9-darter on the stream in the Players' Championships against Rob Cross and juggling the last dart before hitting the double 18. Talk us through that.
It's always something special to do. It doesn't matter what you do, but for the first time, you will never forget this one. But just now, any single 9-darter can't help you to win a games. You have to win six legs at least by the game format. But I missed 9-darter just not many weeks ago, but I don't care about it. I won this game, and it doesn't matter how many 9-darters I will miss this year or next year or in my life. But I did something special to hit 2 9-darters in 2 days. That's special for me, but it's history. Yeah, just any next 9-darter will be just normal leg for me.
Fair enough. Well, we come on to 2022, and early on in that season you got to another final in the Players' Championships, and I remember you said to us before about these races to qualify for the majors, you try not to think about them, just play your own game. But with that race to the World Matchplay, when did you start to really think you could qualify that year?
I think I qualified for I played in the Players' Championship finals 3 times, and you said, I won a lot of points, so important points for the rankings to qualify for Matchplay, for World Grand Prix. It helped me a lot, of course. It wasn't only final, but if you want to qualify for the majors, you have to reach the semi or final at least. And I did it, I qualified great. Now I'm looking for new achievements, new finals, new wins, and I'm still looking for my first win. And it always can help to qualify for majors.
Yeah, you've come close a few times. The Euro Tour as well, you've been making new ground on that year, 2022. You had your first semi-final, and that helped you get to the World Matchplay for the first time. It is one of the hardest majors to qualify for. So what was that whole experience like when you went to Blackpool and played at the Winter Gardens, which is such a special venue for darts?
From Winter Gardens, what I remember, on telly, Winter Gardens looks bigger than it's in real life. And that was a surprise for me in Blackpool. But played against Peter Wright, played narrows, first 5 legs I lost all, then came back a bit. I came back after break, I came back to enjoy the rest of my game. I won a few important legs, but that wasn't good enough to beat Peter. But anyway, it was a massive experience for me, of course.
Definitely, and your good form on the Pro Tour, it also helped you qualify for the World Grand Prix for the first time that year as well, and more new ground for you getting to a first major quarter-final. What did that run mean to you at the time?
It was a great run, but just because double 18 helped me a lot. I was one favorite double for me. Sometimes I missed it, I hit double 4, but still still open my leg, and enjoyed. I think if I remember correct, then I practiced a lot before the Grand Prix, and and the opponents also, Ryan and Daryl Gurney, they maybe didn't play his base game, and I got my chances and I won.
Well, let's fast forward to more recent times and the end of last year, 2023, back at Ali Pali for the World Championship, and for the first time going in as a seed, having broken into the top 32. Getting into that top 32 in the PDC, it's not an overnight achievement. It takes a lot of hard work and time to get there. So how proud were you to have achieved that milestone?
Yeah, that is my goal to reach top 32, not only in Ali Pali, but Order of Merit as well. I did it, but it's not easy to stay in the world top 32, and but now I have to work harder to come back, because there is massive bonus to be top 32 for European tours, and that's one of my goals to be there.
Well, at that World Championship, as you mentioned, getting to the last 32 for the first time, losing out to the defending champion at the time, Michael Smith, and we saw the video you put up on social media afterwards with the fans singing "Stand Up If You Love Madars." That must have been a nice feeling to see that support for you.
If you love the Madars. Michael is a good friend. I heard his interview after the game. He wasn't happy about my tempo or something like that. But I said to Michael, it's for me, it's just normal to practice faster than you play your game on stage. It's not only for me, for many players. And then he didn't expect something like this, and he was unhappy. But no, Michael is a really good friend for me, and I respect him as a person, as player. Doesn't matter. I never will do something wrong on stage against him. Not, and I did. You never know. I can't say never, but not in our party I played fair.
Well, let's get on to this year then, and it's already been a busy one for you, a change in dart manufacturer after a long time with Unicorn. You made the switch to Mission in March. What was behind the move? And also a word on Unicorn, because when you put a post out saying you'd parted ways, we could see it was a partnership which has been a big part of your career so far.
Yeah, it was 10 great years with Unicorn, but I felt a bit tired. I'm looking for new emotions, and now I'm happy to be part of Team Mission, and now we are working for new darts, and believe me, I can't wait my new darts, but I'm 100% sure the Mission will make perfect darts for me, and not only darts, many other things for match as well.
Definitely. Well, just on your new darts then, what changes are you going to make to them? Is it just going to be minor changes, or are you looking to maybe try something really different with what you're going to throw with?
They will be different, but at the same time, something will be the same, but something will change.
Well, another Euro Tour semi-final for you just a few weeks ago, but we've got to ask you about the game with your hotel room partner Darius Labanauskas a few weeks before that on the Euro Tour. Did you two still share the same room after the draw had come out, and if so, what was that like?
No, everything on social media was just jokes, but it's not easy to play against your best friend in the PDC, and he's still my best friend in the PDC. And we traveled together. We practiced together before the match. We stay in the hotel together. Everything together, It's never easy.
Well, let's look ahead, and then at the end of this month it is the World Cup of Darts. It's a fourth campaign for Latvia, and for you a fourth different partner, this time teaming up with Valters Melderis. What can you tell us about him?
Valters is a great guy and quality player, but there is one point I can't understand. If the PDC looking for new players, then why they try to kill players they already have? Because I don't want to be allowed, of course, but I'm trying to motivate Latvian players to go to Q school, go to the PDC Nordic Baltic Tour events, including European Tour qualifiers. This year there also was a Latvian school played in Challenge Tour. Next year will be players Ralph will be Laumanis will be in Development Tour. They all are loyal for the PDC, but they all invested the family time, money, energy, a lot of money and energy. But the PDC sent to the World Cup player who just played 4 tournaments at home in Latvia, and then 2 Pro Tour events in Finland last weekend. Yeah. And plus, for the race to World Cup, Walters won 70% of his all points just 9 months ago. Yeah, not this year, but last year in August. And of course, the PDC has the rules, and I already discussed about these rules with Matt Potter. But anyway, I don't think it's fair. But Walters, he's a great player. He's not worse than other guys, but just. This criteria is going to qualify for World Cup. It wasn't fair, I think.
Well, hopefully that's something we can see change for next year. We have seen changes to the World Cup recently, as far back as last year. The revamp pairs all the way at a group stage to start, and Latvia continuing their run of making the last 16. What did you make of the new format of the World Cup? Are you a fan?
I really like the new format. Group stage, it means at least 2 games. At least against last year we played against New Zealand. I think there is players from other continents. Yeah, it's I think it's a great format, and all pairs games. It's also if it's a pairs tournament, then we need to play all pairs again only. I love it. Yeah, I think it's a really good change from previous years.
And one Latvian player we've got to talk to you about, you've actually mentioned him a minute ago, we've seen you post about him on Twitter, is Ralph Laumanis. I think only 16 years old, but the current WDF boys #1. How impressed have you been with him?
Yeah, he's great talent. Now he's 17, I think, because this year I'm helping him, and I will continue to help. But this at the moment, I have to say massive thanks to Dean Moss and Madars Sports Management for taking him to help Ralph. Yeah, they will be great support for Ralph, and will give more free time for me as well. Yeah. This year we are still focusing for the WDF tournaments because this is the last year for him in youth. Our goal is to qualify for the Lakeside World Championship, of course, but the next plan we have to go to Q School next year, the PDC Development Tour, and of course all the PDC Nordic Baltic Tours,
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on him, and we've got a couple of listener questions before we let you go, and this might be an answer to the one you've just said about. It comes from Jamie. He says, how long until we see another Latvian on the PDC Tour?
I no idea. It's very hard to win a tour card, but we have players who are loyal to the PDC, going to Q School, Challenge Tour next year, Development Tour. Players go to Nordic Baltic Tour. I don't know. I don't know. You don't know. No, yeah, because this, for example, Ralph. Yeah, he has a talent. You can say he will be the next one in the PDC from Latvia, but at the same time, he's just 17 years old, and girls, attention, a lot of things can go wrong. He still needs to go to school, and I know he have a little bit problems now at school just because he's too busy in darts, and it can change. I chat with his parents a lot, because for me, I can help Ralph, I can help him a lot, but at the same time, I don't want to make problems at school. That's more important now than any single dart.
Yeah, can't argue with that. And the last one from our listeners comes from Mo. He wants to learn more about you. He's got 2 questions. What got you into darts, and what are your likes outside of darts?
Outside darts? I have my house, I have my family, and a lot time and a lot of energy goes to both, and just some families. It's my motivation to before the tournaments, I'm always happy to come back after the tournaments to see my kids, my wife, and then at the same time I have to build my house. Still looking for money, and I have to win games in the PDC, in darts, and then it's also just motivation for me.
Very nice. And he also wanted to know, where did it all begin for you in darts? How did you get into it?
No, my father. He was a dartboard, first dartboard in the city where I born, and just started to practice darts. But there was another guy who I followed him, but I never. That wasn't my dream to one day play in the PDC.
Madars, it's always a great pleasure to get you on the show. Thanks very much for giving us some of your time, and wish you all the best, not just for this weekend, but what else is to come in 2024 as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again to Madars for joining us, and we'll finish up the show with the mailbag. I've got one listener question from Warren Allsworth, who says, should the North American Championship go to 16 players and be played over 2 afternoons?
At some point, maybe, but I don't think we're there quite yet. The crowd for the Saturday afternoon was significantly smaller. It wasn't that it was small, but it wasn't the 3,600 that were there on Saturday night. It was probably more like 2,000 fans that were there, maybe 2,500. It was significantly smaller than either Friday or Saturday night, though. To have it across 2 sessions would probably just mean a lot more that people don't see, especially since one would most likely then have to be a Friday afternoon, and I think there will be almost no one there. And that kind of defeats it if there's not going to be that crowd, if there's not going to be that attention, if there's not going to be that buzz, and you're playing in what, the same as a Euro Tour Friday afternoon. What kind of showcase is that for North American darts? What kind of reward is that for the players? That said, we're moving in the direction that there'll be 16 players who are good enough. There probably already are 16 who are good enough, but if you expand it to 16, there would also probably be some players who just aren't up to snuff that make the field as well. And I think we're just not yet there where there's 16 players who could beat any given top player on any given day. Once we reach that, I'd like to see that, and hopefully at that stage we would be able to get this over, or you could move it to a holiday weekend so that Saturday and Sunday maybe could have it, so that with Monday still being a holiday, so that you could do the Saturday and Sunday afternoons and still have a full or fullish crowd. So it is something that might be there in the future, but I don't think we're quite there yet, since this is supposed to be a showcase and it's supposed to be a true reward for the top players. So let's leave it at 8, at least for now, and we consider in a few years.
Yeah, I think you're right there, and I'm just looking at the CDC premier events, if you like. You've got the Cross-Border Challenge, you've got the Continental Cup. They are both 16-player events played over 2 sessions. So from that perspective, mirroring those two, and with the North American Championship going from 8 to 16 players, it would put them all in line. But I think the North American Championship, it is the crown jewel of these events. It is the top one, and keeping it to 8, making it harder to qualify, it does keep that added prestige to it, I think, in some ways. So yeah, I think you could quite easily double up to 16. There are players that have missed out in the lineup this year that would add to the strength in depth. You look at the likes of Leonard Gates, who's won this event before, Jacob Taylor, just 2 names who didn't get into the field this year. But as you touch on there, a lot of it could come down to just how financially viable it is. And this question, it kind of reminds me of the Women's World Matchplay in some ways, because we've spoke about that before. Is it time to go from 8 players to 16 with that event? And with the standard that there is, you probably could do it, but is it too early to do it as well? And is there going to be the interest from a commercial point of view? Are you going to sell 2 sessions for that event? Because you would need to add that extra session to the schedule. That is one of the big questions. And as you said, would that first session of a North American Championship, the last 16, be on a Friday afternoon? and then you've got 8 of those players involved in the World Series event in the evening. If they win through both of those games, they're going to be playing Saturday afternoon, potentially Saturday evening as well. It's a very long weekend, isn't it? So I think there's a lot of thought that would probably have to go into that, especially with regards to the players as well, being able to play all of those 4 sessions. But I think the main one is the financial setup, and if they would be able to sell enough tickets. So yeah, a few factors in play. I think the standard in North American darts, having a 16-player field, you could do it, but having it on the same weekend as the US Darts Masters, which I think is what they want to keep doing, maybe just not the right time to do it at the moment.
Of course, you could also go to 12 players. That is not out of the realm of possibility. And another thing I forgot to mention is there's also the potential that in the near future there'll be 5 or 6 North Americans who have PDC tour cards, in which case I think at that stage you have to increase the field size, because otherwise there'll be almost no one from the CDC eligible, or not necessarily eligible, but able to compete. But anything else for this week?
Well, as always, we've got a few thank yous before we go. Thank you to our guests, to Stephen and Madars, for joining us. Thank you to our sponsors, to Darts Corner, Condor Darts and Quiff, for their continued support of the show. Darts Corner and Condor Darts, they are the places to go for all your darting needs. And if you fancy a flutter on the darts as well, head on over to Quiff, either on their website or their app, and there's a chance to supercharge your odds with Quiff. Remember, 18 plus, T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly, and begambleaware.org. All the links are in the description. And lastly, thank you to everyone for listening. Thank you for the support. We're almost halfway through the year already, but there's still plenty of darts to come, and only one thing to do, whether you've heard it on this show, whether you've heard it inside Madison Square Garden, that is enjoy the darts.
And of course, next week will be episode 360, double 180. So a big one coming up next week. We'll discuss our favorite ways to check out 141. You'll just have to hang tight until that arrives.